Loktargar friends, hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's Max Effort Monday. And as I said last week, I'm kind of switching over to where I'm going to do all my pressing work and upper body work first, and then do my squat and deadlift days the next day because it just takes so much out of me. But today I thought I would do the football bar with some bands because we established a baseline with the football bar, and I managed to get 315 with it. So I decided to try it with 50 pounds of band tension, and yeah, you'll notice that the band are still taut at the bottom, so I've got it set up to where there's no slack this time. So again, it's heavier than the bar weight at the bottom by a small margin, but how much of that is there is only a few pounds. So really we're only getting the 50 pounds at the lockout, and anyone who's worked with bands understands. Hitting maxes against bands is such a different beast in that until you've actually done it, I don't know how to describe it to you, but everyone who's done it, they understand. It's not one of those to where you're going to come in and get within 10 pounds of your max and put 40, 50 pounds of band tension on. Not going to happen. It's not like chains. You can do that with chains. You can't do that with bands. So it started getting a little heavier. I have 275 here, and this one was fairly challenging at the lockout. And so I knew I was only going to be able to make a little bit more bumps. So I went up 285, then 295. And for those who follow Facebook, you've heard the version with sound on, so you can hear my music in the background, and you can hear me hit the upright audibly. So when I got to the end, the lockout was really tough. And again, it tells me that my lockout strength is improving, that my ability to follow through is improving. Because why? Normally hitting an upright against a band probably would have resulted in a mislift. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to mark it at 295 for the 50 pounds of band tension. And again, we're moving forward. Now I'm also going flat-footed with a little more arch, so that would describe it. Because normally to be 20 pounds under your max within 50 pounds of band tension would indicate a significant strength increase, actually. Again, people who work with bands understand. But in this case, I don't know that it is because I'm using a little bit more arch now. So maybe it's just accounting for the arch, and so maybe my raw max is going to go up. I also thought I would wrap there so people get an idea of me kind of psyching up a little bit for a max lift. I don't have a super crazy psych up, but I just try to wrap the wrist wraps a little bit aggressive. Breathe heavy, get in my zone, because normally you guys just see me hit the camera and walk over, so I decided to wrap up there real quick, just because. But I got the lift, and it's obviously a PR lift, and we'll see where it's at next time. But right there, hit that left upright, and I still managed to lock it. So I'm happy with that. And I noticed I felt it a lot in my chest. So I decided to go ahead and mess a little bit with the Buffalo bar for some lightweight sets of 10. And even with 192 pounds on the bar, because that's what's on there. People need to remember that bar is heavier than people realize. So it's a 52 pound bar. So 192 even for sets of 10. I really thought that I would feel these in my pecs, right? Because I've noticed since I'm doing a little bit of arching like this and doing the flat foot that I feel my outer edge of my pec a lot more when doing the speed work. And I noticed when I hit a max with this the other day with 307, just to see where it's at with this extra range of motion from the Buffalo bar, I felt it in my pecs. This was deep shoulder work. Like my front delts were lit up. Like I feel like if I were to do this flat back with that Buffalo bar and that grip, it might actually be risky to my shoulders because of the stretch that it put on them. So it's one of those things where I need to remember to proceed with caution here. Avoid injuries, especially with a wide grip like this, because I've got my pinkies on the rings this time. It might even be I think my ring fingers on the rings for these. So a fairly wide grip using that Buffalo bar. Need to be careful of my shoulders. Pay close attention if I'm going to use this, even for lightweight, particularly for max work. Pay attention to shoulder health. And I'm not going to do a lot of this because I'll let you guys know. You'll see over time. I'm going to start doing a lot more body weight movements as part of my GPP. And I have a feeling moving forward, I'm just going to film 1 or 2 days of GPP, not immediately, but in the near future. Film some of my general physical preparedness and just work them into regular videos once or twice a week on top of these normal workouts. Because again, I want this channel to be more about documenting what I'm doing, documenting my training, teaching people things like that, more of the vlogging. Because quite frankly, I'm more interested in coaching and writing programs and stuff for people than making YouTube my entire only full-time gig as far as my online stuff goes. So I feel like doing more of that would be more beneficial because, again, it'll show what I'm actually doing. And documenting, again, an advanced lifter who's over the age of 40, who's still training hard. And because, again, people are asking, hey, how are you doing this recomp? You've been slowly losing fat and gaining muscle at the same time as an advanced lifter. So I just want to give people a better idea of overall what I do, and as this training evolves, because, again, I probably do a lot more stuff than people realize. Because a lot of people out there, they make comments like, oh, they think that I just do certain things in my training, and they don't realize I do all this stuff on camera, which includes everything from box jumps and speed work to high rep work. But then they forget that I do conditioning work. I do farmer's walks, all that stuff, and I'm trying to improve all of that. So I honestly, like, one of my goals is going to be, I have it in my mind, and I'll get to it when I get to it. I'm not going to announce it. I want to be able to do a certain number of pull-ups, dips, and glute ham raises every single day, and eventually build it to where I do them every day, including training days, in addition to all my loaded carries and farmer's walks and all of that. And what I've done, I've rearranged my gym here so that I can film some of this stuff from better angles over time when I'm ready to do that. I've reorganized stuff, which people have noticed a little bit. Because, again, people will question, hey, you don't really have this piece of equipment or that. Well, no, I do. It's all there. There's no reason to make up something like that, guys. There really isn't. There really isn't. It's just ludicrous at this point. Ludicrous. Not when you have this much invested in a gym. You don't need to make up having a piece of equipment. So it's going to be there, and I'm going to use more and more of it on camera. Start doing the weighted carries on camera. Today, I replicated what I did more or less last time for these, except I skipped that first goofy set that didn't have as much weight, and I just went straight to the normal work sets. Because last time I didn't get all 8 on the 5th set with the full weight, but I also, the first set didn't have the full weight either. So today I just went straight to the 36 pounds of chains, and I went for 4 sets of 8. And then on the very last set, I got to 8, and I felt like I could squeeze out one more, and I ground out one more rep for 9. But eventually, I want to start doing body weight pull-ups every day. So I think that for me, that's going to add a lot to my general physical preparedness. So if every single day I'm doing loaded carries, pull-ups, dips, glute ham raises, that's going to, again, bring my conditioning up. It's going to bring my work capacity up. It's going to help with hypertrophy in a lot of my areas. It will help my big lifts, or all my lifts. Just continue to help me get into better shape. And the main thing is, again, getting the conditioning up, getting work capacity up, hypertrophy, all of those things. And people need to understand that. Good GPP work improves both work capacity and hypertrophy, right? That's the whole point of general physical preparedness. We're doing all those things. In fact, a good GPP program could take someone who doesn't train and actually put, 7 or 8 pounds of muscle on them, right? Good GPP work could, in addition to getting them conditioned. Then I went ahead and did JM presses. For those curious, I'm running about 80 pounds of chains. I would need to do the math again, but I think it's 78. I believe it's 78 pounds with what's getting up into the air. So 78 pounds of chains, 5 sets of 10. I adjusted the grip a little bit as I went. I brought the grip in a little closer through it. And I'm trying to set up using just a little bit of that arch with the flat footing, but it's not super tight. Trying to just roughly replicate it. And I feel like the JM presses need to be my go-to for a while. It's like I'm going to be doing tons of dips, and I don't think I'm going to need any small tricep exercises moving forward because I need more pec and more tricep. And I feel like JM presses, which have been tricep specific, combined with large numbers of body weight dips as I start to add those in, should continue to get my triceps caught up to where they need to be. The dips are just overall size, but the JM presses will be the very bench specific. These will carry over specifically to the bench pressing, while the dips will just contribute to everything, right? General size, because all 3 heads of the tricep get worked on the dip. So hopefully that'll get me there. I decided to not do any real shoulder work today. I feel like with all the pull-ups and all the pressing, my delts really can't take anymore. And if I do some face pulls and stuff, that will finish them off because it does work the side delt. And again, that's one of those things to where my shoulders are getting worked so hard in general. I don't know if they can really handle me throwing a bunch of smaller exercises at them as I'm just building up work capacity on stuff. And if anything, all they can take is some band face pulls. Because again, got to pay attention to shoulder health. And as much as I like the lateral raises, and I think they help bring my delts up a little bit, at the end of the day, I'm not going to ever have the delts of a guy who's blasting 2 grams of gear. And especially the guys who are penning their delts. It's just not going to happen. So, you know, I can continue to do some delt work, but we've got to be realistic about what I'm going to be able to accomplish in terms of delt size. I mainly just need my shoulders to be strong enough to support all my movements, right? And if they can do that, I've got to be happy with it. You know, and at the end of the day, it feels like people don't realize anyways. I noticed from my Chris Bumstead video, people seem to have no clue that most of the delts that they think of as muscle that are out there really are a lot of side enhancement. And because I'm not willing to pin my delts, because again, the potential performance negatives and the scar tissue and everything else, it's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. I'm going to just get them where I can get them with just good training. And I mean, I will throw in some delt work from time to time to work on them. But I feel like with some of the exercises I'm doing now in this phase of my training, I feel like my whole shoulder structure is getting worked pretty hard. And I feel like I just don't have the extra recovery there for that, right? I really don't. I'm going to have to be careful with how I work it in. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.